Welcome back to LivAnimated.com. Let's learn something new. Tonight I have a very special guest with me. I used to work with this guy back in the day. We have Vu Nguyen.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing good. Thanks.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so what we're doing tonight, this is another interview session where we talk to a person who is in the games industry. We're going to look at their background and their past. What we're going to do first is hop on over to where they are currently, which is Lightstorm Entertainment. And Vu, you are a lab artist. Tell us, what is a lab artist and what do you do? You don't have to get into specifics if you don't want to, but what is it that a lab artist does?
Well, a lab artist over at Lightstorm Entertainment, they're more responsible for implementation of 3D concepts that are actually put together by the art department. And in games were different because you have pretty much art and then you have coding and design. But at Lightstorm, there's an art department, which I'm actually not part of, and they're more along the lines of the design. They're just design. There's no limits to anything. They just design, make anything as possible, and then design it, and they don't have to texture it. They just give it to us, and our job as a lab artist is pretty much to optimize, implement it, and get it ready, like game version, make a game res of it so we could actually go in there and do a performance capture, because that's actually what our job is to make a Pandora in a 3D world.
So is it mostly like propping out what is being used for the movie, or propping out anything? Like you said, they just give it to you. They give it to you like grayscale or something like that, where it's not a final model and you have to make it more final.
Well, no, actually, they will actually give us like a high poly model that they actually will model out in like a CAD, because this will be later printed out as a 3D version.
Oh,
and,
that's cool.
As this version, they give me this model and I'm supposed to match it dimension 1-to-1, and I pretty much take that model and I will optimize it, retopo it, do a lower, and then take it into Substance Painter to texture it, and
and that's so that you can do like any other effects or anything in the films or in the previs or anything you have to do.
It's pretty much just like getting a game model ready.
Oh, hi.
Game model ready, because we are doing live capture, and it's pretty much being rendered dynamically,
nice.
right on the fly, pretty much.
Like, you mean like VCam stuff, like on a stage, like on a
it's in a volume.
motion?
We have a volume, and all the performers have their mocap suits on, and they're performing, and they're in their volume. But when you look at the monitor, you see the background, and then we build the physical set to match the virtual set. Not exactly, but where all the touch points are. Those points are pretty much where we try to match. That way, when you see the movies, everybody's touching, and it looks super accurate and looks super real, because they are doing it in reality, and it's a lot of the movie magic that goes on, and how to make things look realistic. But not all studios can do this. It's rather expensive, because you have to have the virtual team, and you have to have the realistic, the pretty much the live team to build the sets and to build everything.
That's awesome. So how big is the team as a lab artist? Are you working with a number of people who are lab artists, and like what type of disciplines encompass that? Like, what does the team make up like for a lab, for what you do?
We're around like 30 people in our department, and we have guys that do layout too, so they're kind of like world builders, to where they take assets that already be created and they assemble them to make like an environment, make the backdrops, pretty much the scene that is designed by the set dressers in the art department downstairs. They'll pretty much do the 2D concepts, and it's kind of nice, because like for me as a pretty much an asset guy, I'm the prop lead now.
Oh, congrats!
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's nice because we get concepts.
That's good.
Pretty much for almost everything that we have, we get concepts. And
it makes it easier for you, right?
So much easier. And I remember
awesome.
in games, it was just like, hey, writer, can I get a concept?
Or they're like, hey, make something cool.
I know, make something cool. She's like, I'm a modeler, I gotta have, so and just like back in the days, all the time you just would start modeling something and it wouldn't look good, and you just throw it away and start trying to model something else. And it's just a lot better to have a concept taken out, and something that's drawn out and thought out and designed out. The proportions and everything are the way, and that way it's just a lot faster.
That's awesome, man. That sounds fun. It sounds like your day to day is different. Like, it's not the same thing every day or every week.
No, because for me too, I have to actually my job too is to put out fires. So
Those are fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of times when things aren't accounted for.
Yeah.
And things just kind of slide through the stuff. And it's just, we need this done right away, or we needed this yesterday. And it's kind of, it all kind of comes back to me because I'm the last in line. And
that's awesome, man.
I have to get it done.
You got to do the quality check.
I do the quality check, but then, I could get stuff done quick enough because I've been in the gaming industry a long time and I've been used to doing stuff, low poly stuff. So I know how to
That's
do,
awesome.
low poly stuff rather quickly just to get things done out. And then later on, it's good enough for the capture because they need it to capture all the actions and stuff like that. But once we capture, we have all that data that's stored and we could just go back there and rework the models, make the, even redesign them as long as the proportions are the same, the dimensions. We could just constantly redesign them till
until it works.
Yeah, until they get approved.
That's awesome, dude.
So it's quite a bit of a different process than games.
But it sounds like you got a pretty smooth pipeline. Like it doesn't seem like you're just working off the cuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's tools and stuff, and there's a good pipeline that we have, but there's always some craziness. But I've gotten pipeline pretty well. I haven't not delivered what I needed to deliver. So
nice.
So the pipeline's pretty good. It's pretty smooth, and I kind of I don't know, like I said, I am working on the Avatar sequels.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, and the one
Congrats,
thing,
man.
Yeah, and thank you. And the one thing that actually, when I did get interviewed, one of the questions they asked me at the interview was, "How are you at? How do you handle being yelled at?"
What? That was an interview question?
Yeah, that was an interview question. I'm just like, well, I'm married. My wife yells at me all the time. So,
that kind of set the tone.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, so I guess I'm okay with it. And it's like, well, yeah, James Cameron is known to be kind of harsh on his employees and yell at people and stuff like that. So,
but I'm sure it's all good. I'm pretty sure it's a blast and you're having fun.
It is a blast, and you know what? I told myself he won't know my name.
Well, yeah.
Well, he'll know my face, but he won't know my name because I've messed up. He's not gonna know.
I got you.
He's not gonna yell my name because I screwed up, and I made it to a point to where my work is not gonna be, the reason why he gets mad and the reason why things are being held up. So
that's good.
It's been 2 years, and I've been actually. They have a kickboxing class that he kind of organizes there in the morning.
James Cameron does?
Yeah. And
what?
I've actually seen him while they work out, and they've been filming and doing the capture, and he'll get up there, and I actually walked by and I saw him, and he was doing the bow staff. Because I've trained in martial arts. I looked over it, and I'm just like, he actually knows what he's doing.
That's pretty awesome.
I was watching him just like, his movements are trained. He's not just like, some guy that's
pretty awesome.
Around.
Oh, you know what? Maybe he takes like that Keanu Reeves approach and really learns it because in the movies they're fighting and doing stuff. So
he wants to actually learn it and stuff like that. So he kind of organizes this class, and one of the other coworkers, lab artists, told me about it. So I started going, but it's at 5:45 in the morning.
Oh man, that's some crazy discipline.
Yeah. So, but I wanted to. Work out with the stunt people and the actors and stuff. And I started training out, and
that's awesome.
I worked out with Stephen Lang, the main villain in the movie.
Oh,
and
wow.
He's a super cool guy. He's probably
that's awesome.
Yeah, he's way cool. And
that's
I worked
awesome,
out with
dude.
And then so I started getting to know him, and we worked out with the group, and we started to interchange each other a little bit. And so he kind of worked out with me, and he kind of just saw that I had some experience,
some chops.
Yeah, some chops and stuff like that. So. And then he would see me in the class again. I started to kind of go, but it's still early. I would, fall asleep, not always make it up in time. But then he would see me and go, "What's your name again?" He's like, "Vu. Okay, your name is Vu." And then like the last time before they're going off to a different location to do some filming right now. And before the week before that, it was the class that I went to. It was just actually me, James Cameron, and the instructor for an hour.
That's awesome, man.
So it was So I had an hour to You don't know how hard it is to get an hour alone with just like work-wise.
Yeah.
People always have all these questions and want him to talk to them about.
And you're just
stuff.
hanging out. You're not trying to do business.
And we're hanging out, and I worked with them. We went through all these drills, like weapons drills, and I'm training all this kind of stuff. So my movements were experienced and stuff like that. And we went through a lot of stuff, and me just learning the pattern, and I'd ask him about the pattern after class, and he would. He needed to do stuff, but then we'd stop and we would show me stuff too and all this kind of stuff. And
all the stuff you're doing, there's going to be some moves you're doing with him that's probably going to make it into the films. You know that, right?
My goal is to gradually work with him and go, hey, you need some, extra.
They're going to have you throw on that mocap suit. We're going to be like, oh my God, that's Vu.
Yeah. So that's my goal. It's something I wanted to do as a kid.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And it's crazy because movies is what I wanted to do as a kid too. And somehow I fell in it. I never went to film school or anything like that. And, I just happened to
You
fall
got a
into
wealth
it.
of experience though in the games industry that screams volumes.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
film.
that's what brought me into it, because I knew that because a lot of the engine stuff that we do has game technology, because it's just like maybe we're working in Maya, and it's kind of like we're
Are you guys doing like Maya and Unreal or something,
no,
or
no,
is it Maya and proprietary
you,
stuff?
Maya proprietary stuff. Have you ever seen how like God of War, how they were doing their stuff, how they were just writing all they had an engine inside Maya that they were writing all their tools through and stuff like that, and that's kind of how we're doing it. They just have their engine stuff, and everything is done through there, and so it's just kind of like a game engine.
That's pretty awesome,
pretty
man.
much built inside, and it's running real time, so
Wow.
it's not like we're in a game where you build all the models and you compile it
And then you hit
play
it. Yeah, you hit
and you play.
EXE. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is actually everything is being done on pretty much real time, and we're recording it, and they were able to adjust like the detail levels on stuff like that too,
Wow.
and hide stuff in there, recording it, and some scenes are just really heavy and they need to be optimized, because a lot of times
Just for the shoot.
yeah, just for the show, and that's kind of like where my game knowledge comes in. I know once you learn the engine, you learn how to try to optimize, get things to run better, and just like with the assets and stuff like that, I just had a lot of knowledge on how to make things optimized and how to make things clean and efficient. And that really kind of carried over to a lot of the film industry, to what we're doing in the pre-capture phase. That it was kind of just like fit me perfectly. I just kind of fell in there, because it's kind of like making game assets, but then you want to make, you have to make them efficient and actually make them look good too. So I just
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah,
That's
so
pretty cool.
yeah.
So, as a lab artist, are you working on multiple projects, or
No,
are you
just-
guys' teams like divvied up where you only get one project until it's done, or do you do multiple projects?
it's just pretty much Avatar 2 and 3 were the first ones that we.
And I know that's probably a lot of work,
Yeah,
but I'm just asking,
it was just
because lab artist is new to me. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be new to a lot of people to know what that is, or
Yeah.
even how to even get a job like that.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool.
So I mean, it's they, like I said, it's kind of broken up into two. It's the art department, which is more like the design, creating the characters, creating the sets, designing stuff, the look and scene, and then the lab. The lab part is actually to implement it, to get it to actually run,
Okay.
to make to be able to portray it on a 2D runnable area, and to be able to implement it to the physical area, to where the actors and other performers could use it, stuff like that too. So
All right, awesome, man.
and
That's
they
cool.
and they are I'm not building the layouts, but those guys, they work hard, and they have a lot of hours that they put in, because sometimes they'll do stuff, and then the director will look at it and go, I want this, I want this, I want this, and they have to make the changes right away, and it's kind of crazy how
But you're building things that they need, or are they building everything and you're assisting? You know what I mean? Like when they build out the level, do you help them out with certain models, or do they just build out what they need?
Well, I think they get a lot of the stuff from the set designers, the art department downstairs.
Okay.
But they're building stuff with, like I said, CAD programs, like
Right, okay.
really high end programs that are made for like
doing interiors and stuff,
yeah,
and
doing
doing like
yeah.
industrial design stuff.
So yeah, pretty much
Yeah.
interior industrial line design stuff, because that stuff is actually being made actually too. So
Oh, wow.
they'll give me like a big piece of this building that's important part for a lot of scenes, and it takes a lot of time putting it, and they're always constantly changing. But once they had like the footwork and the grounding all set in stone, to where everybody all the walking stuff, they built the physical part, so where they can
Wow.
interact with it, and they try to it has to match one-on-one, so everything matches.
That's some crazy compositing that y'all probably got to keep track of.
Oh yeah, and just having to coordinate everything, and having to make sure that they have the most latest stuff, and you're not making changes to where it's already being built, and that change is done and things aren't lining up, and someone's gonna get in trouble, because that's a lot of money spent.
Sounds like a lot of file management.
Yeah.
Do you guys have?
You don't know how many coordinators.
That's what I was gonna
have.
ask. Do you guys have like producers
We have
and
producers,
all this?
but we have so many coordinators. Each department has at least like one or two coordinators
Wow.
trying to communicate. Because in games, like I said, we have art, design, coding, and then QA. Those are the main departments that you have. But in film, we have art department, the lab. We have costumes. We have Zulu. We have the camera guys. We have editing. We have makeup. There's so many,
You guys probably got a full audio department.
audio department. There's just, there's probably departments that I'm missing too. We got the kabuki people, which are the face verts. So that's they're part of the lab, but they're doing different stuff too. And then there's the sync. There's different like animation teams too that are like kind of
like, is there like rotoscope people, but then there are also the motion caption cleanup artists?
the motion capture, the sequencing people. That's what they're kind of called, sequencing, so they could clean up a lot of the animations and stuff like that. So all those departments are there just
That's
to
awesome.
kind of all have to mingle in there, and just so many different people having to coordinate between everybody, and it's nuts.
Yeah, I bet.
And then you have all the like the actors and people with their own personal assistants, and this is when you actually see the
my
the
God.
PAs are just
Yeah,
like, hey,
yeah.
you didn't get me my right sandwich. Throw it away. Go back and go get me. Make me what I want and stuff like that. So
Wow.
it's it is like that. You have your PA.
Wait, you got a PA?
I don't have a personal.
Oh,
PA.
okay. I was gonna
have
say,
a lab,
what?
I have a lab PA, and
Okay.
when I do need stuff and do need dinner, I could ask him.
Yeah.
And stuff like that to actually go out and get stuff. So yeah, we do have a PA. He's not
For your
my
department,
Yeah,
yeah.
for the department, he's not my
Personal PA.
one, but we do have a PA.
That's awesome, man. That sounds pretty amazing. I'm very happy for you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, because it was like, I was in games for a long time, and I was at Sony for like 14 years, and then.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that. So
Okay.
what I like to do is, we just talked about where you are now.
Yeah.
We're gonna go back and talk about your history a little bit and
Okay.
and see how you came to be where you are. So let's just go down. We're on LinkedIn right now. We're gonna go down to education, and it looks like you were at Palomar College, Design and Applied Arts, from '94 to '96. What was that all about?
Well-
I've never heard of Palomar College, and I was still in I think high school.
were-
So you've been in the industry way longer
I've
than me.
been,
I'm
yeah.
going on 20 years, so you
Yeah.
have been here for a long time. But what were you doing at Palomar College
Well,
for the design program?
back when I was going to school, when you wanted to be an artist, it was a starving artist back then. They weren't.
Yeah, that was a different time period
there
right there.
weren't really games that you could kind of go into, and to get into films, it was really specialized. You had to go to pretty expensive schools to get like the training, and to do 3D graphics, you had to go to a CGI machine, which was what, a $200,000 freaking.
Yeah, you're talking about those blue machines,
Yeah,
right?
the big workstation CGI machines back
yeah.
then. That cost
I remember
like,
those.
Yeah, like $200,000 for one work machine. And, that's the type of stuff you needed to get into 3D. But
Everything was NURBS. I think everything was NURBS based. There was no
yeah.
triangles or polygons
no
yet.
polygons or anything like that, and it was Alias Wavefront.
Yep,
was
that's right.
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what that's
CG
what
to
actually what I
CG,
worked on when I
yeah.
first started.
So-
When I first started, they only had the blue SGI machines
Yeah.
that only had that program installed on it. You couldn't
Yeah.
put anything else on it.
Mhm.
It's crazy. That's cool.
So I started off in that, but no, I made the decision that I wanted to do art. Ever since I was a little kid, I always made stuff, did Legos and like build stuff out of cardboard, and was really like kind of hands-on, wanting to make stuff and sculpt and all this kind of stuff. And
Now you don't have high school on here, but did you do art in high school too?
I did actually. I started. I was doing art pretty much since I was like 7 years old. I kind of
wow.
I kind of knew even like when in school, I kind of knew like I always would get praised. I always would be like the best artist in the class, and whenever we had like arts and craft, my stuff always kind of stood out from all the other classes, the other students. So I kind of knew that I was.
You had something.
Yeah, that and then when I went into elementary school, they had this GATE program back in the days, gifted and talented education for
cool.
kids that they thought had that kind of stood out a little bit more, and so they put me that in like the earliest possible, like first grade.
So who was your motivation?
third-
was
third
that
grade.
was that your parents that did that, or was it an
No.
uncle or
No,
aunt or something
none
like
of-
that, or was it
nobody-
all you and your parents were just like, all right, do it?
Nobody wanted me to be an artist. Everybody's just be a doctor, be an engineer. That's all my
Wow.
parents, go to school, be a doctor. I'm just like, I want to do art. I'm.
Did a teacher get you pushed into that GATE program, or like?
No, they saw. It was just something that they. Yeah, I think it was more like my speech teacher actually, because when I was a kid, I couldn't say R's. I'm like rabbit, and, it was just bad R's, bad L's. So I had a speech teacher, and I think she kind of saw some stuff, and then she kind of mentioned it. But again, I had really good math scores, which was one thing. Math was really natural for me when I was a kid, and I pretty much kind of was either the top three, one of the top students in math, continually. So that was another one of my talents, math and sciences. So that kind of helped me through. And geometry, which was part of the math, I was kind of natural back in then. That kind of
And that definitely helps you with art.
Yeah, it helps in the modeling.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And being able to see the shapes and break down shapes into fractional dimensions, their degrees to be able to compose and combine stuff, and instead of having because a lot of times you duplicate stuff, and a lot of things are just radial duplications of things too. So you just got to learn geometry and the math to apply to that. But
so you did the GATE program. After the GATE program, you went way back to like 7. So after the GATE program, you did art all throughout middle school, high school.
I always even in school. I mean, I started doing drawing. I always had like an art class in there. Even when I started
like art contests and everything too.
Yeah.
Like, did you do anything? Did you sell anything?
Not really, but not until I got to the high school part. I started to do drawings and stuff like that, and I started getting noticed that. But it wasn't until I started to get into the 3D stuff, the ceramics, the sculpting. That's when I really just started to get noticed, and that's where I think that was my strength, because I'm more of a 3D person. Like, my drawings were good for when I was young, but as I got older, I wasn't really trained professionally to draw, so I don't have right now my drawing isn't that good.
Well, you haven't been practicing it. That's all.
And definitely now the skill is out there, and people there's just really good artists.
There's a lot of amazing people out there.
Yeah, so I was never.
But it's good you went towards 3D, man. I mean, at that time period, I think people were mostly going to illustration if they stayed with flat art.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of times where you see illustrators trying to get into the games industry, but they don't have a 3D background.
Yeah.
And it's kind of late to the game to start in some cases with a person that's potentially that much older.
Yeah, definitely, because you're competing against kids that start young nowadays and stuff like that. But yeah, so I just got into that, and I just wanted to do art, and I wanted to do movies and games. I just wanted to do movies and games. I knew that.
That was your motivation.
Yeah, I knew that. I'm just there's a computer. I could learn the computer, and I could do art, and then I could make a decent living. I'm not going to be starving. So that was my motivation. I kind of knew that, the future was turning around. I kind of foresaw that the computer was going to be the aid to kind of providing creative people with, a job, occupation where they could be creative and not struggle. And that's a lot of people's dream, is to be able to be creative and make a living.
Make a living off of it, yeah. So design and applied arts, what were some of the things they were teaching you there? Was it just the basics? Was it things you already knew because you had an art background back at the time?
At which school?
At the Palomar College.
Oh, what was good about the school is they actually had a pretty refined art program that was developed, because they had teachers that went to Art Center and came, had their schooling through Art Center, and even some of them went back there and got their masters and stuff like that, and came back to the Palomar College and actually taught what they knew from Art Center, the curriculum in Palomar College. So I kind of sought after those teachers, and I, exposed to Art Center and, kind of the militant approach of discipline and of, 40 thumbnails, get in there and work things out and get your ideas out on paper, get all those thumbnails and try and iron out your ideas before you start to, move on to, the more finished pieces and stuff like that. And that kind of was the foundational part of my drawing, was just, get in there and do the designs,
That's awesome.
And, back then I was learning the graphic design too. I tried to spread out my, my disciplines. I did illustration class, I did photography, and then I did a graphic design, because they kind of all intertwine, and having the ability to understand one kind of helps influence the other departments.
You mean they intertwine by their discipline, or just how they were teaching all this stuff at the time?
Well, I mean,
they all complement one another.
Well, if you're going to do illustration, you need to take your own references. So I kind of figured that, and I kind of started to fall in love with photography too, because I was doing the black and white, and you start to really understand how light works, and you understand
composition.
Not really composition, but just letting light in, just the burn, just the lighting of black and white, and just understanding how light and photography works, and then the composition too. And that helped too with when I was doing games too, because when I was building worlds, I would actually compose scenes as a photograph. I would always try to make cinematography. Always make my scenes where you're guiding your characters through. You try to compose a nice composed cinematography scene. So when players are going through, at least when they're looking there, there's there's the thirds, the different angles, and things in different spots that you're kind of paying attention to photography, because that's what I wanted. I wanted people to, wherever they look, it would look like a photograph.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Keeping all that stuff in mind, that's pretty cool. It seems like you got your eye refined really early in college. That's pretty cool.
I did. Yeah. I took a lot of different stuff, and I even took graphic design, and I had to do stuff to where you had to do inking, and I knew from there that I needed the computer because I could never get anything perfect when I had to do everything hands-on, and I always would somehow mess up and get a little scribble. I'm just
Was there Photoshop at that time?
There was Photoshop. It was Photoshop 2.5.
Oh, wow.
And Illustrator. I learned Illustrator first, and Photoshop 2.5 was right when they were starting to get color in there. And 3D wasn't really a thing yet. The first 3D program I used was this software called FormZ in college. It was back in '95 maybe, and it was just using primitives to make stuff, and I made like a lamp and some other stuff with like a kind of curly gooseneck thing, kind of crazy silly little lamp, and it ended up being one of like the publications for them for the school and stuff like that. So I started to kind of learn a little bit of the 3D back then, and then for some reason I knew a girl that was taking some of the classes with me, good looking girl. She was in the graphic design classes. Man, she was a dancer by trade. She did modeling and stuff like figure drawing model, and she actually would figure draw be a model at the Sony studio in San Diego.
Oh, nice. She was one of the life drawing type people, right?
Yeah, and she would go and model over at the Sony studios for the PlayStation, and she was doing the art classes too. But then, like, one of the female art leads over at Sony kind of befriended her, and actually this new project was coming on, and she knew some 3D and knew some stuff, so they kind of brought her on as a temp artist and stuff like that. And me and her would always try and get each other jobs, and she actually got me an interview, and it was like for like D&D kind of RPG stuff, and I really didn't fit their culture and stuff like that, and I went and had an interview, but I never played D&D. And I wasn't like, I didn't,
You weren't a fanboy, so you didn't have like that passion to be like, yes.
Yeah,
Magic missile,
but my
blah,
stuff
blah, blah.
looked good, and I was doing good 3D, and then I guess she threw a fit. She's like, just because Vu's not a gamer, hardcore gamer, not hard, blah, blah, blah. And then, I guess they're just, all right. They freaking kind of caved in, and they brought me in and gave me a temp job, and, I pretty much...
So wait, so you did an internship while you were
I wasn't
college?
really intern. It was a temp job. It was kind of a temporary, it was, we started off with on like $10 an hour, back then, and it was just kind of it was for EverQuest. It was never done before. It was kind of like a concept that they had, D&D 3D, massively multiplayer game, and they had like a previous game that they had like network engineered for, so they had like a prototype really to kind of get into there. And it was a tank game, and they used that for a prototype before they launched this massively multiplayer game that was still new because the internet was only like a few years.
You talking about it was still like what, Netscape and Alta Vista and stuff like that, right?
Dial-up, dial-up type of modems and stuff like that back in the days too. So so just got into that and somehow established myself, did some good work, and was able to just get stuff done for them when stuff was needed. I always,
That's awesome.
When things needed to be done, I always was able to step up, and that's kind of been my my calling too, and my my reputation throughout my industry is just like, they could always kind of rely on me.
Been counting you to get stuff done. So another thing I like to do, we're talking about you getting your feet wet. You're at Palomar College. So what I like to do too is do some retrospect. So like, this is an opportunity to say like, what would you have changed anything differently? And so what the goal is I'm trying to look for here is for people that might be in your same shoes. They're still in college right now. What are some of the things that if you look back now with your experience and go, man, I probably should have did this, I probably should have did that, or maybe I wouldn't have changed anything. What would be what you would look back on to your experience at Palomar College and go, woulda, shoulda, coulda, or for the people now, what are the things that they can do now that they haven't thought of that will make them be in a better light to get a position in the industry or to get noticed? Or so that's what I like to do. So we're gonna do a retrospect.
Yeah.
So at Palomar College, if you just think back to all the time you're there, what are some of the things that you would either change or you could say to people in college right now to say, hey, always focus on this or always do this, that you think would be helpful from your experience?
I think my experience at Palomar College was really good.
That's awesome. You don't hear that often from people. They always like, man, I should have did this, or I shouldn't have been messing around with this chick, blah blah blah.
My thing was I probably should have, chased more chicks.
You were in your prime.
But no, I mean, Yeah, I mean, there were some distractions, girls and stuff like that, but no, I actually that school was really good. It it was prepping me to go to a art center, and I was trying to work myself up there, and it was good because I didn't have to take out any loans. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to really do yet, but I knew once I started to go to Palomar and started to, my first 3 semesters out of high school, I just took general ed, mainly 3 or 4 general ed classes, and then I took one elective, and that elective was usually an art class or something like that, just because I wanted something fun to do. But once I got my requirement out of the way, my general ed stuff, then I started to really focus on the electives and trying to spread out different electives, and it was a good chance for me to kind of figure out which art I liked and which ones I was good at. I really started to dive into the computer, and I figured that was pretty much my strength with the computer. And I actually did my ceramics in high school, and I was doing my sculpting, and that's where I kind of learned that I was good at 3D, because in high school when I was doing ceramics, I ended up being the teacher's assistant. I ended up teaching the students. I ended up doing my sculptings and bringing stuff at home and sculpting at home and firing and actually having art shows and having the most art pieces, and then having teachers offer to buy my art pieces.
I think they were just trying to help motivate you, man.
No, they wanted.
That's a good thing. No,
Yeah.
that's a good thing for teachers to do. I mean, because it makes you feel like, oh man, they want to buy my work.
Yeah, and stuff like that too. And,
It's motivating.
So that's where I kind of noticed that I was, good at 2D, and people were just like, "Hey, make me this," and people were trying to get me to make stuff for them all the time. and
That's
stuff
awesome.
Like that. So that kind of showed me that I was more of a 2D person, and Palomar got me the commercial stuff, like the design stuff. Like I was able to take graphic design. I was taking it from teachers that went through, art center. So they had like professional knowledge, and they were professionals already. So for what I paid was like back then was like $13 a unit.
Oh wow, yeah, times were
$40
different then. That's crazy.
$40 per class, and then your art supplies. So you were able to go in there and just kind of, I went to JC for like 5 years. I took a lot of different art classes, and then I was actually going to transfer, but then I got the job, and after 5 years of a community college doing the classes and stuff like that, I pretty much was pretty set to go. I came into
is Palomar Community College?
Yeah, it was
okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a community college, and I was going to transfer from there to the art school afterwards, but I got a job, working at Sony, where people, what's the point of going back to school, paying all that money to go back to school and coming back and get the same job, So I just kind of continued to work, and
oh wow, yeah. So it does jump. Let's go back. So at Palomar, you went from Palomar to your first job at Sony.
Yeah.
I just noticed the dates on there.
Yeah, and then
did you go in as a senior artist right off the bat?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
So how did you get introduced to Sony? How did you get that position? What happened there?
I was telling you about my friend who was for the RPG.
The girl, right?
Yeah, the girl. She got
so
me
it
in.
was for this. Okay.
Yeah, and that was for Sony.
Yeah, I didn't know it was for Sony.
Yeah, so and we were kind of like a prototype kind of concept game that was kind of not really done yet. So, they just needed a bunch of like cheaper, newer people to kind of work on it. So there was a lot of juniors that worked on that project. So I was one of the juniors that came on there, and I learned through there, and I ended up picking the tools and applying the knowledge that I did from all other aspects. And it was more the disciplines that I learned. Like I took a typography class where I had to actually draw out lettering and stuff like that. But it wasn't really the typography stuff that taught me. It was actually learning to figure out what to look for, because you're learning the spaces in between the type, and you're actually learning to see how the color,
balance
and
stuff, right?
the color from the weight of the color and the weight and the shapes, and then you start to kind of see like the little spaces to where in between the words where that space is too big and it doesn't look balanced and stuff like that. And that kind of develops your eye to where
how to use negative space
space, and just being a little bit more keen on just details and stuff like that. So I think it's good to kind of expand your knowledge and just kind of learn a lot of different things.
That's awesome, man. You have a lot of stuff. I didn't know you had all that under your belt, man. That's crazy.
Well, sculpting, photography, drawing, graphic design.
Yeah,
a lot of that.
So on here, if you look at the dates, so you went back to school.
Yeah.
So you went back to school in between being at Sony already.
Yeah.
Some people would have just, I'm in the industry, I'm staying in the industry, I'm just going to learn as I go. But you went back to school. So you went back to San Diego Mesa College.
Yeah.
So you went there for something even totally different, for your business degree.
Business, yeah.
So what was on your mind? Did you start to think like, this may not be for me. I don't know if I want to go into games. You're like, I need to, I want my entrepreneurial to kick in.
Okay. I kicked ass. Okay, coming into the game, I kicked ass.
Okay.
And our game did well. I made money. And I made enough money to where I was able to purchase my first house at the age of 27.
Oh snap, baller!
Yeah,
nice,
so,
man.
Yeah, so
in California?
In La Jolla, UTC, San Diego.
Okay, San Diego. Yeah, that's California.
Yeah. So I got my first property at 27. I made money off the housing market. I bought a brand new convertible M3 at the age of 29.
Oh my God.
And then by then I was just stare at my car and go, okay, this is what what do I do now? I got to the work where I wanted to, and then, it's kind of a weird feeling because you feel like you've made it, but then it's just like, what do you do now?
Yeah, you feel accomplished, but then you got to set more goals.
Yeah,
man.
then
you
that's
can't
so that's what happened. You set more goals, but then they weren't the right goals. They were to make more money, just
to maintain the lifestyle you're trying to lead, right?
Yeah, to be to be a little bit more flashy and stuff like that when I was younger, and I was a little cocky and probably a little shit. A lot of people probably didn't like me and stuff like that, and I.
Well, you don't come across that way to me in the time that I met you and we worked together.
This was when I was young. I'm 22, out of school. I'm making all this money. I'm freaking. Without having to go to school, any kind of knowledge that all these people do, I'm doing better than them. So I kind of have a little bit of attitude.
Okay.
You're seeing them just like, I felt golden, this is just, and I was at golden at the workplace too. But then, things don't always maintain. The games don't, then, EverQuest was doing well. It's making a lot of money. I was making good money, but then World of Warcraft came along.
Oh man, they changed the game up, dude. They changed the game up.
Yeah, and they just kind of took the majority of our market and stuff like that. So things didn't work out well, and the company tried to try to recreate that hit with other games and other genres, but it doesn't work like that. You always think you can reproduce it, but lightning doesn't always strike twice in the same place. So so that didn't happen. So and I made some money, so I purchased some other properties, and then things didn't go well.
From the 2008.
Yeah, and then the market started to crash, and I was kind of like at the top of my credit, of on expenses and stuff like that. So I had a lot of expenses going up, but then things started to crash. I started to lose money, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with money.
And so that's why you went to school for business.
Yeah. I was actually
that's smart.
Actually trying to do it through real estate. I was do little seminars, a little bit of studying through real estate. So I figured, if I could learn the real estate market, I could try to maintain. But but I did okay. I still have one property that I have my knowledge in and stuff like that. But I didn't do as well as one. I lost money in property. So I told myself, okay, you need to be educated in business. And actually, there was another thing to where a friend of mine did have an invention that he was trying to work, and I put money into it, and I was gonna, if things went well, I was gonna actually, be one of the, top executives in that company. So I kind of wanted to prepare myself just in case that happened.
No, that's smart.
So,
that's smart.
So while I was working pretty much full time at Sony making games, I would actually go to school right after and commute about half hour to go to a community college. For about 4 years, I did that and took 2 classes a semester in business, and
that's what the
San Diego Mesa College.
You went to college. It looks like twice while you're still at Sony.
Yeah. Well, San Diego Mesa College to transfer to San Diego State.
Oh, okay.
So and now San Diego State has, back then, well, not then, but before, in 30 years, it was a party school. It was just a bunch of party school. But now it's actually a really good business school. And the sports schools are good. The sports there are good. So they have 100,000 applicants a year now.
Oh wow!
So I was able to make it in, and I had a pretty good GPA going into there. So the
curriculum wasn't too hard or much of a difference. I mean, because you're already working, you're already making money.
It was hard. I mean, I'm not gonna say
it was hard to stay focused, right?
I mean, I'm pretty good at being focused. It just took a lot of time and energy because I did give up on a lot of stuff, and I pretty much was working full time. I'd go to school, and I'd come home and study. And one time I don't know why, but I decided to try to finish a algebra course at a home online algebra course in 6 weeks to get past this one math course. It was like the last algebra course, and it was hell. I mean, I would go home right after work and probably do work for about 6 or 8 hours in algebra for 6 weeks.
Was it because did you procrastinate, or were you just like
hard?
Oh, okay. So you had to study. Actually, had to study hard.
I had to study and learn this stuff, and then I would have to go and do problems afterwards.
Oh wow!
And it was a 6-week course, and it was just constantly moving on to new material. So I had to learn the material. So it was just I just had to be disciplined, go down, drink coffee, and bear down, and read and study and get all go through all the math problems and make sure I studied it and stuff like that.
That's crazy.
But then I got I got accepted in the college, and that was kind of fun.
That's pretty cool, man. So the Gnomon, that's the workshop, right?
But
so where does that come into play? I don't see any dates. I don't see any information on there. What was that? Did you take a class or something?
No. So what ended up happening, after being in the career for so long, these are some of the mistakes that I made in my professional career.
Okay.
I got pretty comfortable. I got pretty complacent, and after I was making my money, and we got bought out by Sony Online, so I didn't really have as much of the influence that I had when we were a smaller company, because we were a bigger company, and now there was like these managers coming in, these other managers, and if I were to work hard, these guys actually would take the credit for it, and they would.
I see. Like the structure was starting to come into play.
Yeah, the structure was starting to being a big company, and then I just started to feel like there's these people coming in and then trying to take credit, and they're not, in the game industry, they're not always leaders. You don't always have like the highest level of demographical people in there.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that are more looking out for themselves than other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I just felt like, well, I'm not gonna bust my ass for you if there's nothing in it for me, if I'm not if you're gonna take all the credit. So I kind of started to play the game a little bit and just kind of I mean, you make mistakes. It's just you're young, you're just like, whatever, I'm making money, I'm doing good, I'm just gonna I get my bonuses, I get my my quarterly profit sharing stuff, so I'm just gonna sit here.
Did that last for a long time?
I was there for 14 years.
Oh my god! All right, so the workshop was only for you to like just hone in on your skills more, or did you work there?
No. So the company, towards the end of that, my stay at Sony, they just started to go downhill in the profit, and it was kind of years in the making, and they were doing layoffs for like 3 or 4 years before that, and gradually,
sounds like how things are now.
Yeah, and gradually, they hadn't been profitable for a year, and they were trying to gradually sell the company, and it got to the point to where I was kind of untouchable for a while, and it got to a point to where there were really no more untouchable people, and so I was expensive, and my producer at the time I didn't work for him that long, so I didn't really have history with him, and he really didn't know who I was. All he saw me as was expensive.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, it happens. That happens a lot when people come onto the team and they don't know not how valuable you are and how much you're costing the company, but just like how valuable you are to the team and the success and how long you've been there and why the company has been successful because you're there. That sucks, man. It happens, but that sucks.
It needed to happen to me because it
was like the kick in the pants for you.
It was
a
kick in the pants. It was a piece of humble pie, and my head wasn't in the right place. So once that happened, I was kind of in shock, but they kind of helped. They gave me a severance check, and they tried to assist me in getting a new job and stuff like that. But this is where the Palomar education kind of came into play, to where it's just like, I only have a college level education. I don't have this art school education, this Gnomon education that kids have nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
You could go to these art school now and get this education of how to do all this problem solving, how to design, and concept, all the training that they pay for to get these good work habits of being able to go from scratch to finish projects and stuff like that.
Right.
And I kind of lost that track a little bit because I didn't really go to the really high end schools and stuff like that, and I didn't have the.
Well, they weren't
connections.
available at the time.
They weren't available at the time too, and so I kind of didn't have the connections. So I had 3 art tests right after I got laid off, and they were they were for Blizzard, Naughty Dog, and Avalanche Studios, and I didn't get one, and I just got married, and I knew if I didn't get any of the jobs that it was gonna take me like at least a year to.
Right, it's hard if you're out of the industry for a long time, and like a long time is like 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, no.
And then once that happens, you're just kind of like, man, am I gonna find work after that?
Yeah, so I went through a phase to where, I didn't get any of the jobs, and I just kind of knew I'm just like, I didn't want to tell the wife.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I just need to take some classes. So I'm, so.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I
Well,
did
that makes
have.
sense.
So I did have my properties, and I used to hold on to them and try to pay the balance, but I kind of just, decided to let them go, and then I ended up having to lose my home in San Diego because I didn't pay on it. I wanted to keep my money, so I would.
Did you try renting it out?
No, I lived there.
Oh, okay.
I lived there for a year without paying. So that was my. I stayed there until they kicked me out, so that way I did all my training through there and stuff like that.
What?
Yeah.
What? Wait. Okay. Things were good. Money was good.
Uh-huh.
You bought a house.
I bought 4 properties.
Wait, but you bought a house first.
Yeah, and then
you didn't pay it. You didn't pay your mortgage.
No, I did. I did pay the mortgage up to there for like 10 years.
Oh, I thought you said you lived in it for a year without.
No. I lived there for 10 years, but then when I lost my job.
Oh, you were so you were a squatter. You squatted.
It was my own place. Yeah, my own. I squatted my own house, of course. So yeah, but
I don't know if that's how the bank looks at it though.
yeah, of course. I don't care what the bank thinks.
That's crazy, man.
So,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. At least you went to a really a great place to like refine your skill.
Yeah.
Since you said you want to go back to classes. So yeah, I think we're done with the education part. That's awesome. It's crazy how a lot of people,
but
they'll find it difficult to go back to college, especially after being as successful as you were.
Yeah, but the thing is, you always need to go back. I mean, that's the thing that I feel that I need to go back to school right now still, just because, you
adapt.
Well, to adapt to and you constantly want to always learn something. Just grow.
Well, is it from the structure though? Is it something about going to an establishment, a school, in order to have the structure to do it, as opposed to just doing it at home? I mean, a lot of stuff is free online. There's a lot of courses, a lot of training you can do.
I like.
You like being in a class?
I like being in an environment. It makes me focus more. It's more, if I'm by myself, then, I'm gonna
distractions,
not be focused and do other stuff. So, I need to, I know how things work for me. I know I need to make a commitment somehow, either financially or signing up for something. That way there's structure behind it. There's some
accountability.
Yeah, there's a curriculum, there's accountability that, something I could follow through and something that gives me something measurable. So yeah, I think that's just the way it is. And, right after I started working professionally, I pretty much started martial arts, and that gave me the discipline and structure to kind of.
What was the first martial arts you got into?
I started doing Choi Foot.
What?
Kung Fu.
Kung Fu. Oh, Kung Fu. Okay.
Choi Foot is the branch of Kung Fu.
Okay.
I pretty much trained there for my whole time in San Diego while I was working.
That's awesome. That'll definitely keep you disciplined.
Yeah, and it's kept me healthy. Like now I don't get sick at work. I'm still after work. I still try and get my workouts. I make sure that I leave. I'm not staying there too late because I have to go and get my workout because, it's a marathon and I don't want to burn out. I need to, time to do things for myself and, time for myself to make sure that I'm not, going off the edge. I get the balance that I need to be able to go the long distance.
That's good. So what type of workout are you doing that fits into your schedule right now?
Well, right now, I'm pretty much Mondays. I'll go and do the weights, do about an hour weights. I always start off, since I'm older now, I always have to.
Is this at home or is this at a gym?
Studio. There's a gym at work that I go to. It's a nice little facility. They have a lot of stuff you go there, but I'll go to the 24 Fitness in Hermosa Beach. It's really nice looking scenery there, so it's a good place to get motivated there. So, I'll go out there, and Mondays and Wednesdays are kind of like my lifting days, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays are my yoga days. So I've been doing hot yoga since I moved out into LA, and it was more along
I heard
the
about the
lines,
hot yoga.
Well, it's more the lines because a lot of the damage and a lot of like the wear and tear that I did in my body from a lot of like the high impact sports, I wanted to really focus on trying to repair my body and realign it and kind of restore it back to
That's awesome.
something that's maintainable and not where I don't have chronic pain anymore. So I started to focus on that, and it kind of helps me open up like other parts of my inner body that I wasn't really able to open up in.
So you're into
martial
like the
arts.
whole chakra and chi and stuff like that, or not so much?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Because that shit's real, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like for me, through all my training, when I tested for my my black belt in Tai Chi, because I have a black belt in Tai Chi too. One of the instructors that have already passed it, and he's been training for a while. He was just like, oh, now you're at the level to where you could self heal yourself, and I took that. I'm just like, okay, but I really understand what he means, because you could manipulate your energy and internally, like make adjustments on your body.
Yeah.
So-
No, I totally believe it. I totally believe in that stuff too, man.
So yeah,
the chakra stuff and all the healing stones and gyms and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I'll do
That's
the yoga
awesome.
with that, and then Friday is kind of like my rest day, and then Saturday and Sunday I'll go to the beach, but I'll wake up, I'll do weights for about almost an hour, 45 minutes to an hour.
It's a long workout.
And then I'll do the yoga class right after the weights, and then I'll go play volleyball.
Oh
after.
my God,
And I'll do that
that's
on Saturday and Sundays too, a lot of the times. So, but
It sounds like you're making the most use out of all the hours in a day.
It is. I do actually. I'm pretty full, but I enjoy all the stuff that I do, so I can't really complain.
That's awesome.
In my work, they provide food there. There's breakfast. You could get lunch there, and then they feed you dinner.
So it sounds like you only need to be at home to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And then
much.
get up and just do everything else outside of the house.
Yeah. So I've been pretty fortunate, and I've met a lot of really talented, really cool people where I'm working now, and a lot of people do their work, but that they're good at what they do, but they always have other talents that they're really good at. And when you see people do kind of their side talents, you're just like, yeah, you guys are freaking really talented. I'm
That's
around.
awesome.
Yeah, you're around some really quality people when just like their side hobbies where they're just freaking.
Yeah, it's good when you have people that have such a high caliber for what they do, and inside and outside of the office.
Yeah, and
that
just,
passion is real.
Yeah, and just high caliber people in general, to where they're actually okay. You're actually a good lead that people will follow you, and you're not actually thinking about yourself. You're actually trying to be a leader and putting the other projects and other people in front of you, and and that's what you want. That's what you want in a leader. So
That's awesome. So you went from Sony for 16 years, and then you went to Red 5 Studios.
Yeah.
Senior World Builder. So how was that transition? Was there a gap in there? It's 2016.
yeah, there was actually about a year since
So you took a year off, or you were looking for a job for a year?
Yeah.
Or? Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
And it was luckily Adam was an art director, and he knew me. He knew my history. He worked with me, and he always knew that I worked hard. I put out good work, so he gave me a chance over there. And but that time after Sony, that 3 or 4 years was really rough. Just not really being stable, and I think Red 5 was the longest employment, in between like a year and a quarter or something like that. And Blind Squirrel, that was there right afterwards, was only 8 months. So in that period of time, that was 3 layoffs for me in about 2 or 3 years. I would say about 3 years, 3 layoffs. And after Blind Squirrel ended kind of roughly because
this is 9 months.
They were a small company, and they kind of expanded too fast to where they didn't really understand how to manage everything, their rapid growth. And the way that I was let go really...
Was it a project-based thing?
It was kind of outsourced stuff, and I was kind of helping outsource on some of the God of War stuff there. So I helped do some of the minor sculpting and stuff like that. But I just felt like I wasn't being directed properly, and I was having to redo stuff, and it really didn't reflect well on my work as an individual. And I was more expensive too, and they just ended up letting me go. And it just I just felt like I didn't really
You didn't get a chance to show your skills and stuff?
Because I wasn't really doing creative stuff. It was a lot of like stuff that the other companies didn't want to do. So it was just cleanup work, fixing stuff. And
well, let's not skip Red 5, man. Like, that's where we met. I met you at Red 5.
Yeah, man.
I was there for 6 years and some change, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. Dude.
God, that was the longest I've ever been in any place. Yeah.
Towards the end. But that was a lot of fun there.
It was a lot of fun. I think it has a bad rep, obviously, right? But a lot of that has stemmed from like management decisions.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's
a lot of talented people that went through.
Yeah, I think Adam was the person hiring people at the time.
Yeah.
I think for yourself and for me, and I think he did a good job of bringing a team together.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people that were on the team, they've moved on to go to crazy places and do crazy things.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to give them credit for that. I think there was a huge disconnect though from being there as long as I have, and I'm not bashing them at all because I was able to grow a lot there. I was able to meet a lot of people there and kind of be able to challenge myself. Mm-hmm. But man, there was a lot of times where, with all the talent we had, I think the ball was dropped on allowing the artists, the programmers, the designers for us to just be creative and just let us just drive what was going on.
Yeah,
I think
we didn't really have any,
we didn't have any say. It felt like
we didn't have any say, but then we didn't have any people telling us what we shouldn't do.
Right. yeah. There was a little bit of that too.
Yeah.
But I think, man, I mean, I stayed there so long because I really did feel like we got something.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. I remember the first play test that we had when they sent everybody home early because they were launching, and we all had these codes. We had to log in. We were doing like Sunken Harbor, and it was all just a PvP. It was a one map. You load in, you play that, and that was it. There was no MMO to it. There was not all the stuff that we had when we were working on it. So I was like, man, this is crazy. And then it changed. It all changed from there. I think a lot of it was people wanted to listen to the feedback.
They wanted it to be like, kind of like a shooter-based thing, just because of I think the way the money it made and how it blew up. I think they just wanted like to.
Maybe the motivation was wrong.
Yeah. Well,
it was a lot of money there.
Yeah. So I think it was just never really solidifying the design, because that's always hard. You know, trying to find the right design in the gameplay, and all designers have different ideas of what they think is fun. So.
And there were a lot of things that came online there that were different in the industry at that time. Mm-hmm. A lot of things. I think we were like right on the cusp of doing amazing things, but we never really got that final trigger pull to go like, man, this is awesome, guys. I think we found our shtick. Mm-hmm. I don't think we got to that point. I think we just kept going around, listening to feedback, changing things, and doing things, because that was a time when Rust came out. That was a time when DayZ came out. All these games came out where we're like, our game is close to what these feel like. Like, what are we missing? Like, what's going on? So that's crazy, man. So you're there for a year and 7 months. For Sony, we heard your reflection back to Sony. So as a world builder at Red 5 Studios, it seems like you took on a kind of a different role there. So as a world builder, as opposed to like everything that you've done at Sony and everything you did at your schools, like it sounds like you kind of went into a more focused, acute area of expertise there. Did you get a chance to use all your skills as a world builder, or not so much?
Well, it was weird because like when I was at Sony, there was just environment artists. It was just artists and environment artists.
There was no terrain editor at the time, right? When you got everything was built out as like
in Maya,
sectional pieces, right?
Yeah, when I was doing my work, we were doing same thing in Maya. We were actually building all the terrain in Maya, and we were actually modeling. Like I had some techniques that I would kind of model individual pieces, snap them together, then run them through sweep them along a spline to get and lattice them to get organic looking mounds and all this kind of stuff. And it looked good in the game and stuff like that. So so I was actually we were doing everything in Maya, and we didn't really have trained editors, but I did work with some trained editors because some of the other projects did eventually get trained editors. I will say
Red 5 Studios, they had a lot of tools. I mean, it was all proprietary tools.
The one terrain tool we had was actually really cool, where you could actually sculpt and do overhang stuff. It was kind of like a rudimentary ZBrush type of stuff. So that was actually a really good tool. And
they had a lot of stuff. We had a lot of stuff going on there. But with it being proprietary and like where things are now, like I think it would have been our best interest to go right into Unreal.
Yeah.
Because I think wasn't it still like Unreal 3 or just starting to become Unreal 4 at the time. I think it was still 3, the Kismet one.
Yeah.
But still, I think it would have been beneficial for us because we had a lot of art. There was a lot of art
Yeah,
created.
could have just put it. Yeah.
We could have just put it all in there,
Yeah.
restart it. Because I think that was one of the things too that kind of got us, which was trying to make sure that programming had enough time to get the engine where it needed to be, with it being a proprietary setup, and I think there was just a lot. There was a lot of moving parts at this studio.
Yeah, it was just hard. Like leadership always changed, and things change with different leadership. So.
Yeah. So at Blind Squirrel, you said it was a smaller team. It sounds like Blind Squirrel was the place that they do more like was it like movie tie-in type games or like smaller projects like that, or
a lot of different projects they had. We were doing console stuff. Like I helped on like Mafia 3 and stuff like that. But that was
ports.
It was ports, but it was just like clean up stuff towards the end. Even stuff like world building stuff to where you were just kind of like set dressing stuff, kind of object placement and set dressing, and then you would have to kind of abide by some of their gameplay rules of just like how things were supposed to be set up, and then things had to be climbed and ducked under, so you had to make sure like all the mechanics behind those were kind of like working properly. So a lot of little like just kind of towards tying the loose ends and kind of getting the games together. So it wasn't really anything like I was building stuff or making assets or kind of putting a city together really, but a lot of stuff that I used to do before I wasn't able really to display over at Blind Squirrel because we weren't really in the front end of the creative process. So
and it was I think you were saying like it was in between time. So like when you left, was it a huge transition? Because Sony, for being there 16 years, was it hard to go to the next place? I know you said it was like almost a year in between going to Rare 5, but was it a hard transition going into a new studio? Like,
not really. I mean, if you're a social person,
because that's your first time leaving your job. Sometimes it's a big deal for people. I know people who are still at their first employment places.
Well, I mean, I grew up in Santa Barbara, and we moved to San Diego my senior year. I had the opportunity to stay in Santa Barbara and graduate there, but I wanted to go to a different school, a brand new school my senior year, to be open up myself to new opportunities. So I guess that was never really a fear that I've had of new things because I've been exposed to before, and I guess I've had experiences to where I've adapted easily and I've kind of just fit in well. So that was never really a concern.
I can agree with that. I think it's the sport. I think you're very cultured. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It helps out a lot, man. You have a lot of good speaking points on like whether it's sports or just
and traveling too. Just the more experience you get in life, I think the more you said more cultured you are, the less judgmental, and you just have, I guess, more confidence in what you're doing because you've been put in different situations and managed to make it through somehow. So yeah, I think that's probably just
awesome.
Just many different experiences I have. It's just pretty much it doesn't scare me to get thrown into a new position. And I think my personality is actually I kind of like stressful things. I think I'm more of a fight person than flight. So when things do get rather rough, I actually think I perform better. Like I buckle up and then I kind of focus more and try and figure out what I need to do to get things done for that objective. So
that's cool. So with looking at because I think you mentioned something about like it was like the layoffs or something that happened from Blind Squirrel to Rare 5. You're like that. You never experienced that before. It was all new.
It was crazy because like I said, I've been fairly successful in my my life.
Did you have to take a step back? Were you like, the hell's going on?
It was crazy, young and when you were young and things go well, you think that life is gonna be good, smooth. You're gonna achieve your goals and stuff like that. But when you start hitting hurdles like this, you really start to second guess yourself. Actually, that's probably what I was doing mainly was second guessing myself. It's like, am I really am I made to do this? Am I cut out for this industry?
Was that your first time having those feelings? In regards to work?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Like before, I was always just like, I got this. This is no problem. Always confident. I'll freaking figure it out and take it on, and always come out and come out well. But then like, when I wasn't getting the jobs and I was seeing all this work that was better than mine, and my work wasn't to the level that I wanted it to be. I had a lot of thoughts to where it's just like, should I have, stayed in school and actually been an engineer or an accountant or something like that to where I could get a regular job.
I think that happens though. That happens to everybody.
Yeah, I think we
like
all...
you get that moment when you're like, man, like, what is going on? Why are things changing?
Yeah.
Did I do something wrong? Like, what's happening?
But it's just, you start second guessing yourself. It's just like, you're like, am I made for this? Am I good enough? And, there was actually a period to where there was about 3 days in a row, I would just wake up with anxiety. I was just like,
oh, wow.
And I was just like, what's going on? And I just had to go. I would just pretty much just throw my gym clothes, go to the gym, and just work out as hard as can, run as hard as can, just to freaking get that anxiety out of me, stuff like that. And but then things happen for a reason. It made me really focus on figuring out, because I went to school for business, but did I want to do business as a profession? Not really.
Hey, I mean, at least you went into it though. Yeah. I mean, like,
no, the thing is,
you had your goals. You were clear. You were saying like, I want to go into business because I need to better manage my money.
Yeah.
So did you?
Well, yeah.
Did you able to manage your money better?
It's the best education.
Okay.
If I were to tell,
and you got something to fall back on.
Oh yeah. No, if someone were, I would have tell people that was my best educational choice right there, were to go back and learn business, just because of what I know about the real world and money management and what is out there, and how to, how all these companies are sitting there trying to psychologically pry their money from you, manipulate money from
markets,
you. And, markets and all this kind of stuff in marketing. And, once you're kind of exposed to that, you're just like, well, I really don't need that anymore, The
material stuff.
Yeah, I really don't need it. I mean, I'm going to buy things when I want to buy it, and because I want it, not because someone tells me I need it, or
not because it's trending.
Yeah. So you learn, things like that, and you kind of have a different outlook on things and money, and you understand what Black Friday is, and you understand
it's a tax on the people.
Well, not really. Black Friday is pretty much like I was telling someone else. It's called Black Friday because in accounting, in the past days, when you're under profitable, you write stuff in red. You're in the red. A lot of their accounting stuff goes in the red. But usually Black Friday is usually towards the end of the year when a lot of the companies hit their profit margin. So everything around, that time of the year, November, December, is from then on is profit. So they're in the black, so they're able to mark things down, whatever they want.
Oh, so it doesn't matter when they give away like 1,000 TVs, because they're like, hey, if all these TVs are gone, we're making money.
We're already in the profit, so we're trying to just get rid of it. So that's why it's kind of
and that's every year.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So it's just like, a lot of companies from the beginning of the year, they're in the red to a certain part of the year when they make their profit, and they're finally in the black. So that's why they kind of,
Oh, wow.
So you learn.
So that's to clear out inventory then, pretty much, and to make money at the same time, because they're like, we don't care about these TVs, even though there's like 4K TVs.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so we're in profit. We could get rid of these, to the prices that we need to, and stuff like that. So knowledge, education, and stuff like that. And
that's cool, man.
So you learn little stuff about that, little things, and how the world works, and you just are able to make a little bit more educated decisions.
Yeah.
So that was
that's
the main
pretty
thing.
Cool.
And then.
And then you went to Lightstorm. We're back at where we started.
Yeah, and it was crazy how it worked out, because it's what I wanted to do, and the missus, she started working as a flight attendant. That's what she does now.
Okay.
So she ended up, when I was at Blind Scroll and all this kind of stuff, she ended up getting a job as a flight attendant, and she had to go to training.
At LAX? Or?
LAX.
Okay. That's her main hub.
Yeah. Luckily, she was Japanese. She was able to get a job as a speaker.
Oh, perfect.
So she was able to.
Bilingual, so that helped.
So she was able to jump over the whole. There was like 2 people. There's like a waiting line to get into LAX, like 200 people, and she was able to hop everybody just because she was the speaker. And
that's awesome.
She was getting stationed in LA, so I was looking for work. I was looking through Creative Heads, the little mail in that you get through the email on creative listings and stuff like that. And I was, I'm just like, well, start applying for jobs in LA. Since she's up in that area, and I just started sending out resumes, and then. I just saw this thing, Confidential Studios. I'm like, oh, studios named Confidential Studios. All right, whatever. I'm an idiot. It's just,
what are y'all working on?
It's confidential. I mean, not the name of the studio. It's just fucking, So I'm just, 3D modeler. So I just submitted, a resume. And, I think like 3 days later, I get a phone call. Hey, we got your resume. We think we could use you, but we can't really talk on the phone. If you want to, come down to LA. We're in Manhattan Beach in Santa India. We'll talk to you. I'm just like, I have a haircut appointment tomorrow, so if you don't mind me, coming in with messy hair, I'll come in tomorrow. So they're like, just a little bit of a joke and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and then so I just canceled the hair appointment and went in, and it wasn't really even that long of an interview. I mean, it was more of an interview. It was only like an hour and a half.
Was it like they knew what they were looking for, or were they not in the industry and they were just like, oh, this is the guy?
No, I think they kind of knew what they were looking for, but I think it's kind of weird because I think they kind of just look for someone that how they read and how they could get along. I think they were more basing it upon like, their
social aspects because they're trying to build a team. It sounds like
they're building a team, and we're confined in the area for like 10 to 12 hours a day, so you need to have people that could work well together.
Make sure people can gel.
Yeah, and they wanted to get the right people, and it's fun. The people that I work around with are fun every day, and I started this thing to where it was back in the days too, where it started off from like back when I started. I had this carrot, and some guy that I was working with, I threw it in his coat pocket, and it became a thing to where one of these days he's walking, he freaking reached in his pocket. So what the hell is that? Some freaking wrinkly old carrot. So it was like kind of.
Oh, it was a real carrot.
Yeah, it was a carrot.
Oh God, I thought it was like some kind of plush toy or something.
You had. Picked up and just totally So that would started spark like a little prank that I started doing. So I started hiding stuff around people's desks. Now at my desk, James Cameron's a big like organic plant-based food advocate and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So there was like these meat sticks, the beef sticks, and I picked one up. I thought it was some protein, some meat, so I was gonna eat later. I picked it up and looked at it, and I'm just like, it's fucking plant-based. I don't want to eat this shit.
It was like a soy stick or something.
Yeah,
right?
soy stick. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? So I remember, fuck, I want to eat it. So I started like, didn't know what to do. So I started hiding it, around.
Oh my God! It doesn't go bad or nothing, right? It's like just like a little concentrated.
It's been there for like a month and a half.
Oh my God!
So it's hidden somewhere. Someone has it right now.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I mean, it's crazy stuff. One of the guys, they didn't play the game right because they were hiding it, and they were just hiding it in places that you wouldn't look. And you didn't fight. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna look there. You got to put it to where someone unexpectedly grabs it. What the fuck, and all this kind of stuff. So they started doing that, and
yeah. But did you say, "Hey, that's my carrot"? You're like, "Oh, you found my carrot."
But they knew it was for me. I would just start laughing. They see it, and you're seeing me dying, and they're just laughing. And so now it's just like we sabotage.
Prankster.
And, so it's kind of fun. We have guys that we could do that with the work, and so it's fun. It's. They tried and build a family, so everybody, people hang out together.
You've been there for 2 years too.
Yeah, today is actually my actual anniversary. Yeah.
Congratulations, man!
Thanks, man.
That's awesome.
And
thanks for being here on your anniversary. Anniversary. That's awesome, dude.
So it's been good. And it's crazy because they decided they liked me. And it took about a month and a half to actually get hired through the process.
Oh, wow.
So it took a little while, and I didn't think they wanted me.
Well, it sounds like they were planning up to do big things, so I think they were just wanting to make sure they got the right person.
When they interviewed me, they're like, well, this project's going to be about 8.5 years. So
wow.
So
dude. Jackpot.
Yeah, so I was okay. And then it's crazy because it's like, they had the orientation, and they have their own screening room. And they brought me in there, and they showed some clips of the old, Avatar uncut scenes for the orientation and all this kind of stuff. And then they, showed some scene of Alita, what they were back in the, 2 years ago when they just were getting the green light for it and all this kind of stuff, and they were talking about it. And I was just sitting there going, how the fuck did I get here, dude? How the hell?
It's what you wanted.
I'm just like, but how did
it's
I
like
get
you had to go through all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, but it's just like, why am I here? How did I get here? I mean, this is what I wanted to do, but how the fuck did this?
Awesome.
Yeah, why am I here? All this crazy stuff, all these ups and downs that I went through, all this, things of feeling like I didn't, I wasn't good enough to be, and all of a sudden I'm, here and I'm seeing, these
stars. These are mega stars.
I'm seeing these ideas from freaking the most biggest movie maker there is right now, and it was just like, so things do happen, and you don't have to always spend all that money to go to a famous art school. And for me, I'm lucky because I paid for all my schooling on my own.
No debt for school anyway, right?
I didn't even ask my parents for money.
That's awesome.
So it's really good. I have money in the bank. I have savings. I have a vacation property and stuff like that. So.
Oh man, you're back on the property bandwagon. You're not
Well,
buying a bunch of properties,
no.
right?
It was
okay.
the same, it was
You're
the
like,
one, it was
things
the
are good
one,
again.
no,
I'm
no.
going right back to the housing market.
No, it was the one property that I was able to maintain.
Oh, okay.
So it was the
okay.
one that I kept from back then. So so I've maintained that, and so yes, so things are doing all right. You know, I'm
awesome,
pretty
man.
happy, and
That's pretty good.
So you know, that's my kind of message, is that you don't have to go to a school and spend all that money. Like, I would tell people to, you know, get the videos, take some of the online courses, and there's a lot of resources out there. You just got to be disciplined. You just got to, you know, make yourself go through it and take some classes, because you know, that's where you make connections. That's where you meet other
networking
people.
and stuff
you
like
network
that.
and
And be patient.
Be patient, and don't be a prick. You know? Be approachable. Be friendly. And teach people too. Like, that's one of the things that, you know, a lot of people, when they get to a point, they get a little they don't have a good self-esteem, and they don't want to teach people, and you know, they hold information, they don't teach stuff. But, you know, just teach people. You know, be helpful, because they're gonna, I mean, when you open yourself like that, when you help other people, people are going to help you back, and that's just how it goes. When you're, you know, closed off and dick, no one's going to want to help you. So, you know, be helpful. Try to help other people get jobs, because they're going to be helping you too. Your managers, your bosses, they're not going to help you as much when you're trying to find a job. It's going to be the people that you connect with, the colleagues that you've had experiences, you know, in your past careers and stuff like that, in school and work and stuff like that. Those are the people that are actually, you know, really going to, you know, put their hands out and really help you, not the people that are, you know, sitting on their, you know, behind their desk with the high salaries and stuff like that. They don't have time for that, or they don't care as much a lot of times. So, so that's, you know, the one thing is just really, you know, be good to your coworkers, and try to, you know, teach the younger people too. So yeah, it's just, it's karma.
That's a good message, man. That's good. That's good.
So, and then also always try to better yourself too. You know, if you're not bettering yourself, you're not going to be able to help other people better themselves too. So
it's good to find that. It's good to find your passion, but it's also good to find something outside of work.
Yeah.
So that you're not. It's hard to stay 1,000% in work. Like coming home and you're working.
Oh yeah.
Going back to work and you're working. You got to do something else.
You need an escape. You need to be able to step away and do something else, to where you don't even think about anything at work. To where when you go back to work, you feel passionate about it, because you know, you're not thinking about it all the time.
You're like waiting to go back to work. There's times when I'll take off, like those 3-day weekends that we've had recently and stuff. I'm just like, Monday night, I'm like, oh man, I'm so excited about getting back to work tomorrow. It's like you got that creative juices. The tank is full. I'm ready to go to work and just spill it all out into what I got to do.
So you know, when we're busy and, you know, they give me something cool I got to make, I'm always, you know, ready. You know, I get into work and I'm just, you know, from the get go working and stuff like that. And when you're there, you know, be as productive as you can, and then go home.
Yeah.
Don't take your work home. You know. Yeah. You need your own time, but, you know, when you're there, you know, just crank out, be as productive as you can, and then, you know, take your time that you need to on your own. So that's kind of the message that I'm sending here, or that I want to kind of portray.
That's pretty cool, man. That's good, and that's the whole premise of what I'm trying to do here, of like giving back. You know, there's a lot of times, and I haven't even talked about this yet, but there's a lot of times where I was trying to figure out how can I give back. You know. I'm not talking about just with money. Like I'm a donator. A lot of people know that I give money, you know, whatever.
That's awesome.
But it's one of those things where I was like, I don't want to go work for a school. I don't want to be an employee for someone else to be like, oh, well, you got to teach this. When I'm like, I got almost 20 years experience. I want to be able to just give that back. And so when I had this idea, I was like, this would be the best way for me to do it. I know a lot of people in the industry. They can also help out in telling their story, like what you're doing here, which I'm greatly thankful for, and I appreciate.
I appreciate the you know, the opportunity to tell my story, and hopefully, you know, give someone that, you know, motivation to go, hey, if that guy did it, then, you know, because for me, you know, I don't tell much people this, but, you know, I am an immigrant. I was actually, you know, a boat person from, you know,
boat person?
Yeah, pretty much from the war. You know, one of those. I was a war refugee, actually.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I'm pretty much, you know, there's a story that we were actually kind of stuck out in the South China Seas for about 3 weeks. You know, before you know, we got picked up by a Chinese commercial fishing boat. So
how old were you? Did you?
I was only like 3 years old.
Oh, you were 3. So someone told you about what happened.
Yeah. But, you know, that was, you know, leaving a communist country back after the war and stuff.
Oh, wow,
like that.
man, I didn't know that.
So pretty much we came to this country with nothing. So
You came to this country with nothing. You built up that dream in 20-some years.
And
that's awesome.
Now I'm doing it. So
That's awesome, man.
So it's possible.
It sure is possible.
It's possible, So that's what I want to, tell people out there. Just keep on dreaming. Keep on plugging away. Keep on working hard. And then when the opportunity comes, you can just go for it. You just gotta dive in and go. And if you don't know completely what you're doing, just go in there and just continue to learn, ask questions. Be humble, and even though if you have a lot of experience, don't always talk about it. Just go there, be humble, and then gradually
just work. Do your work.
And then gradually your skills and your knowledge will shine, will show. They'll see it. So
that's awesome. So we already know where you're going to be for the next 6 years. So are you still looking beyond that, like 10 years from now, 20 years from now? What do you plan on doing? I mean, with your business background, it seems like you can.
I'm trying to save money. Like I've gotten to the point to where I'm gonna.
Are we gonna see Vu Studios or something in the future? Is that what we're talking about?
No, you know what? My next goal is to take some acting classes.
Yeah.
And I want to see if there's anything in front of the camera.
So you want to be on the screen?
It was kind of another dream, but I don't know. I don't know how well I'm looking on the camera nowadays.
No, dude, you're fine. You're fine.
So we'll see.
And if you can get James Cameron as a credit, so it's like
I know. I mean, that's
win-win.
It's about the networking,
Yeah.
If the guy making the decision at the top,
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, I figured if I'm already there, my foot's in it. Why not just
keep that relationship going, and you never know what's gonna happen.
Just go for the dream. Put the idea out there, and just work hard at obtaining it, and you never know, opportunities could happen. So that's awesome, man. Well, cool. Well, I want to say thank you very much.
I think we covered everything. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was fun.
Great conversation.
Yeah, man.
It was awesome meeting you at Red 5 and then stay in touch, man. We played frisbee together. We played basketball together. Yeah. God, man, it was good times. Good soccer. It was good times. Good times. Yeah, man. I remember when we went to go play soccer with the guy, the CEO of the company at the time. Yeah. We took a long lunch, and he bought out the soccer field for 3 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
And we were out there playing, and then Vu turns over, and Vu is like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "Oh my calf!" And I'm like, "What are you doing? What are you rolling on the floor?" I thought he was trying to hog all the attention or something. And the dude's calf was swelling up. He cramped up on the field.
I was just like, one time I was starting to sprint. It was towards the end. I started to actually kind of put a little bit of effort because I was trying to play, and all of a sudden I would just contract, and all of a sudden my leg just wouldn't stop contracting. I was like, "What the hell is wrong with you? Stop it!"
I was like, "What are you doing?" And then you're like, "My calf."
And I was just doing all this weird stuff.
I didn't know what to do. I was kind of in shock because he was like, Vu is a very muscular dude. I don't know if you can tell from his shirt. Vu is a very muscular dude. So he's laying on the ground, and you just see him like hulking out, seizing up, and his calf is swelling up so much, and it wasn't uncontracting. And I was like, what is going on? I've never seen a muscle just expand and expand and expand. And I'm like, his calf ain't that big. But then I started seeing it get large, and I was like, what? And then that's when I think Zhang ran over. He was like, "What are you doing? You got to help him out." And so
stretching it and stuff.
I actually stretched his foot and pulled his foot forward for him, man. It was crazy times.
It was crazy, dude.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to recover after that? I've never cramped up like that.
Yeah, neither have I. That was the worst cramp I've ever had. It took probably about 2 hours afterwards.
2 hours?
Yeah, I felt started to feel normal again and stuff like that. And then you were there when I got Henry elbowed me in the chin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
and it was funny because they had the kegs there and stuff like that. And I just, Jared, he works with me now. I got him a job.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so he sits right next to me. We goof off all the time, and I'm
awesome.
So I'm cheesing him and giving him sausages.
Yeah.
Pulling out the
sausages. That's funny.
But it's funny because we were starting to drink, and I'm like, "Hey, Jared, I need a ride to the freaking hospital and back." And when I freaking come to pick me up, like, bring me a beer. So he's freaking, you go to the keg and he would pour me a beer, and he'd would pick me up from the freaking hospital with a beer, and freaking driving back to work, with freaking stitches and a beer and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's good times.
That's crazy. Was the stitches from basketball, or was that from the same? That wasn't from the same day.
No, it's from the basketball. From
okay,
Henry,
that's what I thought.
Yeah, Henry just went and freaking. And then I started to play, and they're like, "Oh, you're bleeding." I'm just like, "Oh shit!" I went and looked in the mirror.
You're a tough little dude, man. You're tough. You're tough.
So yeah, but that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Crazy. Yeah, that was really good times. I have not been able to find that since. I mean, that's the one thing about Red 5 too. Like, there was a lot of people who did a lot of stuff outside of work, and like we had it on the regular. We were going frisbee every other day, and then we were doing basketball, and then we did tournaments
and the tiki time and all this kind. Yeah, it was a very
There were culture up and downs that the studio had, but when the culture was up, it was like amazing.
Basketball tournaments.
It was amazing. Everybody was coming together. It was like when everybody got back into the office, everybody knew what to do with their work, and we were just like, "Oh man, it's time to go play. Your team ready? Is your team ready? We gonna do this?"
It was so fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And nobody had egos. I think that was the best part.
We're playing with computer people, so
we're
just like freaking people bouncing the ball off each other's foot and all this kind of stuff, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
good times. But man, I do appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I hope you guys have learned something new, and that's what we got. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Awesome, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, maybe another time.
Awesome.